welcome to your B News Town Administrator Update. I'm your host, Sydney Bowles, and I'm here as always with our Town Administrator, Paul Sagarino. Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
How you doing, Sydney? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Great.
Do things slow down for you in the summer?
We like to think so. You know, Burlington's a really busy place, so I think we're really busy year round, but I do think that we do get a little bit of a break during the summer, which is great, but you know, we're starting to work on September's town meeting now, and again, we're very fortunate to have so much going on year round here, so that makes for a very, you know, vibrant town without having any downtime. But yes,
nice.
It's great.
So a little bit of a chiller time, but not too chill.
Yeah, it's not as chill as like you may like it to be, or maybe it was 20 years ago. But certainly, you know, having a lot to do means there's a lot going on, which is good for the town, and that's what's important to me.
All right. So one of the things that you actually wanted to talk about this, you brought this to me as something you were excited to talk about, was municipal aggregation, which is coming along, right? Have we signed the contract? Is it? Yeah,
it just happened this week. So we got bids and signed a contract. So the whole community will be a huge education process starting. We'll probably start at the select board meeting in August, getting the word out there. But really, it's a fantastic program intended to save the residents money on their electricity bills. And we're really excited about it. We had a program in the past, probably over 5 years ago. We submitted for a new program, and it sort of got caught up into a snafu at the state level. We were sort of in no man's land and for approval for several years over the pandemic, and you know, during that time electricity prices spiked really high, and we had many residents calling for this program, and you know, we wished to provide it. We were just sort of held up, and we got green lighted and we're ready to go, so we're hopeful it's a successful program.
So no pressure if you don't have these numbers off the top of your head. Do you have any indication of what the new rate will be, or potentially any savings that might be?
Yeah, I think I would be remiss to discuss it at this point. Okay. And again, we're making an educated guess through consultants on the electricity market, so we'll be able to know what the savings is probably for the first, you know, 4, 5, 6 months of the program. But Eversource changes its rates every 6 months, so you know, we're working on law of averages, and you know, very intelligent people's expectation of what's going to happen in the energy markets over the next several years. So.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. I think tomorrow, as of this taping, I'm going to be speaking with Sam Hockenberry from the town and the contractor, Mark Capadona, about how it all works. I'm going to be sitting down with them so folks can expect some more information from the horse's mouth on that one.
As much as we can get it, it's an education process, and again, I think everybody's going to be really happy with the final product, and like I say, if things go the way they're supposed to, we should be able to save the residents real dollars through the combined purchasing power of all the residents together as one. Makes us an attractive customer for somebody to bid less on us, and that's sort of how the program works. We use all of our buying power together to get a better rate.
That's awesome. Switching gears a little bit, you mentioned town meeting. One thing that the town is revisiting is a digital sign for the corner of the town common. This is something that came before town meeting a couple of years ago, and town meeting was basically like, take another look at this, bring this back to us when you have more details. Is that about right?
That's correct. I think the feedback we got at town meeting was town meeting wanted, we had assurances from the police that it was okay from a distraction standpoint, but I think town meeting wanted to see something a little bit more formal in writing, you know, so we'll address that this time. And I think the other big question that came up at town meeting was, you know, what's the policy for the use of the sign? And because those policies weren't finalized at that time, I think that town meeting had some pause, and they postponed it, and the select board wished to bring it back, so we're starting at the planning board tonight at 6 o'clock on the zoning change. It requires a zoning change, which, as we all know, it's a very high threshold, a 2/3 vote at town meeting, so we're hopeful to get it back in front of town meeting and address any of the concerns that they had raised the last time, and hopefully be able to clean up that corner. Those banners have seen better days, so.
Right, I mean, it's tricky. I was trying to think it through. You know, I think the idea is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, town agencies can publicize if there's a library book sale or an event happening on the town common, but then there may be non-town agencies that you would want to be able to advertise something as well, folks that have been grandfathered in for a long time, but then how do you formalize who isn't?
It's so tricky,
Yeah.
you know, because there's so many worthy causes out there, but you just need to be really careful about, you know, what you allow up there. You set a precedent, and then the next group wants to come in and get on there, and, you know, like I say, there's a lot of worthy organizations, but you really need to have a really solid policy in terms of how the sign's used, or else, you know, we're going to be spending a lot of time trying to deal with you know, electronic sign issues if we don't have a good policy to start with.
Right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes at the planning board.
Absolutely.
History buffs, architectural nerds, including myself, I consider myself a proud nerd, will be really interested to hear that there's some real developments happening at Kent Cottage. This is something that has been on and off for a while. This historic building, really cool building on Middlesex Turnpike. There's going to be some new housing there. How do you feel? What are your thoughts on that?
Like you, I'm really excited. It really is a beautiful landmark in the town. The developer is going to do their best to preserve as many of the look and feel of it. It will create some new housing units in a nice little area. And, you know, I think it's long overdue. I mean, the building had fallen into disrepair many years ago, so it's really very difficult spot. This is surrounded by wetlands, so there's not really a lot of uses that you could have attracted somebody in there for. So I'm really hopeful that they have a very successful development. They're working really hard with the town to try to make sure that, you know, it has the look and feel and maintains, like what you said. It's a very beautiful property. You know, everybody that I get questions from out-of-towners like, what's this building, you know? And
Yeah.
it has a really cool history, and I'm glad to see that they're going to maintain as many of the characteristics of it as they can as they put a few housing units there.
Yeah. All right. Another topic. This is something that I think is so tricky. There have been a couple of conversations recently at the select board about utility poles. Something we drive by all the time, don't necessarily think about, except for when something weird happens. And I think it seems like the conversation is, what do we do about this increasing need or perceived increased need for double poles, for security poles, for extra stuff going on to secure all of the wiring that we have in place? Do we have any power as these utility companies say, we need to do this, we need to do this? What position does that put us in as the town? How should we be handling that?
Yeah, it is tricky. We all need all the utilities that are up on the pole, right? Everybody's paying for those utilities, but I think, you know, what the board has been bringing up is we just wanted to make it look as nice as possible. Telephone poles are ugly. They're even worse when you have a double pole. And, you know, some of the more recent inquiries we've had to stabilize poles require another pole with another wire, and sometimes they have the wire that goes down into the ground. And we're just trying to be more deliberate about asking the utility companies if they could, you know, upgrade it a little bit for us. You know, I understand that all these charges get passed on to the consumers, so the residents are going to pay for it one way or the other, but we just really want to be, you know, conscientious of the built environment as we go along. And if there's a better way that they could fix a pole situation by spending a few more bucks, and it's going to really, you know, appeal better to the community visually, then that's the type of thing that the board's been questioning the utility companies on. You know, we're fortunate to have everything in town, and, you know, all areas of the town have all these services up on the wires, but like I say, if sometimes when they start leaning, or there's a double pole, or there's wires coming down from the pole, it's just not very appealing to the eye, and nobody wants that in front of their house. So I think what we're trying to do is just say, hey, can you do it better? You know, we understand you need to do it, but is there a way to do it better by spending a few more bucks, or putting in a bigger pole that doesn't necessarily need the metallic wires going down into the ground? So that's been the board's take on it the past several hearings.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the solution is really a case-by-case basis. It seems like, yeah, there isn't really an opportunity to do anything, at least not right now, anything more sort of broad-scale policy solution like oriented.
Yeah, I think like infrastructure, like everywhere, the utility infrastructure is getting older, the poles are weakening, and they're trying to prop them up. Again, they have to be cost conscious too, because all these costs get passed along. And We get a lot of complaints from residents about double poles, but the problem is within the state law, we have no way to enforce them. We can't fine the utility companies, so we're left to sort of negotiate with them like, hey, can you please get somebody down here? And it's actually a huge process to get rid of a double pole because there's like 6, 7, or 8 entities up on there, and they all have to move over from one pole to the next, like in order. So you finish with Comcast, and then Verizon's next. You got to wait, a couple months for them to get down there and move their wire to the new pole, and then it's, the fire alarm company, and then it's RCN. So you have to go down the whole list. It's a big process. Seems pretty simple to us to the naked eye, but there's like 7 or 8 different companies up on these poles, and they all go in sequential order.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah,
That's wild.
It's an interesting thing, but cities and towns have literally no remedy to force the utility companies to do it. It's more of a negotiation, and I think there's some legislation on Beacon Hill to change that, but they've been unsuccessful in getting that passed done in the past, and we're hopeful to give us some sort of tools to work with to force the utility companies to just do a little better at it.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get out of all those nitty-gritties and end on a high note. We're going to have, once again, our now annual, essentially, beer gardens coming up in September. Are you excited?
I'm super excited. Like I say, what I like most about those events, they've been a huge huge hit within the community. I know you've been down there. You go down, you see families with small children, you see dogs. Everybody's having a great time. And what I really like about it is we just get to meet so many different members of the community that may not be town meeting members or may not be very active in local government. We just see the regular folks that are here in town coming down to enjoy themselves, and you get to meet a lot of different people that you had never met before. So really looking forward to this fall's installment on that. And now we have the mural down there as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this area, this sort of like True North Coffee Park here, this sort of town center area, is really kind of the epicenter of the work that Economic Development Director Melissa Tintoklis has been doing to sort of do some of this placemaking work in our downtown and town center area. Is it working?
Yeah, we get really positive feedback from the businesses. As you know, that we've attracted tons of people to this small area. That's what it really is. It's an economic development initiative. As you know, we spend a lot of time working with the larger businesses in town, but we also want to focus on those wonderful small businesses we have in our town center. We have every business you could use in the town center. The shoe guy, the ice cream shop, the pizza shop. We have everything that anyone will want in a small town center, and it's just a question of opening everybody's eyes up and maybe bringing a new person down into the area who doesn't spend some time there and says, oh geez, I didn't know that store was there, I'm going to go there check that out the next time. So
right.
It's been successful, and in spite of that, it's also a great community event.
And a great time.
Absolutely.
All right, Town Administrator Paul Sagarino, thank you as always for taking a couple minutes. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Sydney.
All right, that was another Town Administrator Update. I'm your host, Sydney Bowles. Thanks for watching.